Unplanned events have resulted in some of the most memorable moments in cinema history. Actors deviating from the script gave life to some movie situations, resulting in memorable one-liners and heartfelt outbursts. These impromptu remarks gave the movie depth, humor, and charm, and they produced scenes that viewers still find themselves quoting. But why did these spontaneous lines strike such a deep chord, and what makes them so unique? Join us as we explore the best unscripted movie lines that surprised audiences and became legendary in Hollywood. You can't handle the truth. We venture that the mere sight of this image will trigger the saying, "You can't handle the truth," in your thoughts. Even though the line was well known, it wasn't the same in the script. "I want the truth," exclaims Lieutenant Daniel Kaffee, Tom Cruise, to Colonel Nathan Jessup, Jack Nicholson, during their interrogation on the stand. Nicholson was meant to respond in the script, "You already know the truth." However, Nicholson altered the line to the far superior version since he didn't think it was good. Nicholson's brief pause that follows further heightens the intensity of the statement. She talks in her sleep. The original Indiana Jones flicks are among the most cherished movies in cinematic history. It's also not out of the question to argue that they improved with each movie. We dare you to find someone who doesn't like at least one of them. The original trilogy's last and possibly greatest movie was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It was an absolute hit when Sean Connery was cast as Indiana's father. Even though every movie had terrific moments, this one mainly had a subtle, impromptu exchange that had most of the team laughing uncontrollably. Indiana, Harrison Ford, asks his father how he knew Elsa, Allison Doody, was a Nazi after Henry Jones, Connery, and Indiana are taken prisoner. Henry says in a low voice, "She talks in her sleep." Indiana looks away for a second before cracking a sarcastic smile and wide-eyed stare. Connery had made up the statement on the spot. It was never in the screenplay. Many crew members reportedly started laughing so hard they had to stop rolling. According to reports, director Steven Spielberg stated, "Well, that's in," indicating that the line will remain in the finished version. "I'm walking here." A tale of two con artists who became unusual friends, Midnight Cowboy is regarded as one of the best movies ever filmed. The reason behind one of the most iconic moments is that a renegade New York City taxi driver almost ran down the movie's stars when he disregarded the signs indicating filming was taking place. An actual cab screeches to a halt as the actors in the scene, Dustin Hoffman as Ratso Rizzo and John Voight as Joe Buck, walk down the street across a crosswalk. Ratso's well-known cry, "I'm walking here, here I come strolling," and "don't worry about that" after the driver speeds off, he continues. Even though he was on the verge of getting run over, Hoffman never deviated from his role and instead improvised additional lines before delivering the pre-written scripted lines. They could use it in the movie since it was done so expertly. I know. The Star Wars films have transcended into many different contexts with their timeless heroes and villains, political intrigue, and amazing animals from throughout the cosmos. All moviegoers have their favorite scenes and films, but The Empire Strikes Back is generally considered the greatest. Empire skillfully added to the Star Wars canon, giving us some of the most memorable words and moments throughout the series. Harrison Ford, however, had to make up one well-known scenario on the spot. Before Han Solo's Ford carbonite freezes, Leia, played by Carrie Fisher, declares her love for him. Han was only meant to respond, "I love you too," according to the script, but Ford felt that didn't quite match his persona and brought this up to director George Lucas. Lucas instructed Ford to say anything he wanted. As the cameras start to film, Fisher says her line, and Ford gives the ideal Solo answer, saying, "I know." Hey Malkovich, think fast. One would expect that a film receiving such high accolades from critics wouldn't have much behind-the-scenes antics, But John Malkovich has one particularly memorable scene that wasn't scripted. A boisterous young man exclaims, "Hey Malkovich, think fast," as a truck passes by John Malkovich, playing himself in one of the highway sequences, and strikes his head with a can. The actor screams and gets hit by the can. In reality, the moment was never intended. Fortunately, the extra who was at the scene was not intoxicated when he decided to pull the trigger. The sequence and Malkovich's natural response were so great that director Spike Jonze included it in the movie. The extra was awarded an acting credit in the film and had to be promoted to a regular cast member. I don't care. In his capacity as U.S. Marshal Samuel Gerard, Tommy Lee Jones won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in The Fugitive. The film helped make Jones a star and was a big box office hit. In the well-known tunnel chase scene, Harrison Ford's character, Dr. Richard Kimball, attempts to win Gerard over by claiming, "I didn't kill my wife." Jones was meant to respond, "That's not my problem." Instead, he made the perfectly in-character retort, "I don't care." And presto, Oscar. Funny how? I amuse you? Goodfellas, directed by Martin Scorsese, is arguably the best mafia film ever. The ensemble was brilliant and could pull off any scene, even if they had to make up the lines. Though there are many memorable sayings, none quite measure up to Joe Pesci's "funny how" moment, which is unexpected given that it wasn't in the original script. Henry Hill, played by Ray Liotta, tells Tommy DeVito, Pesci, he's hilarious after he tells him a funny anecdote. Tommy intensifies the situation, making everyone at the table squirm, then laughs it off as another joke. Tommy interprets this as an insult, implying that Henry believes Tommy is a clown, merely here to amuse you. Scorsese inserted the sequence into a rewritten screenplay for filming after seeing it, according to Pesci, which he and Liotta had worked on off-camera. You talking to me? After all, it had to be planned since it's one of the most famous and cited lines in film history. Nope. Travis Bickle, Robert De Niro, is ready to assist a young prostitute in getting away from her pimp in the 1976 classic Taxi Driver. Bickle delivers the iconic statement, "You talking to me?" to himself in the mirror as he gets all worked up in his apartment. Robert De Niro came up with all the sentences on his own. The script itself contained no lines for him to recite. It only said, "Bickle speaks to himself in the mirror." You're going to need a bigger boat. You're going to need a bigger boat, says Chief Martin Brody, Roy Schneider, following the audience's best yet glimpse of the enormous, horrifying great white shark in Jaws. Schneider is renowned for adding the line, but it now appears it wasn't just spontaneously inspired. For quite some time, that was a line that was constantly in circulation on the set. The movie's notoriously low-budget producers contributed to the necessity of filming on a tiny boat in the first place. However, the line was a filler whenever something went wrong on set, even if it was just a late lunch. Schneider delivered the phrase in a single take, and it was so effective that it had to be included. I bet you can suck a golf ball through a garden hose. Even now, Full Metal Jacket is regarded as one of the most captivating and moving military films. It may surprise you to hear that the movie's most well-known character, who possibly received an Oscar nod for Best Writing, never had his lines pre-written. Originally employed as a technical advisor to the production crew, Marine R. Lee Ermey was a drill instructor at Parris Island. Ermey was cast in the role and instructed to conduct himself as he would at a typical boot camp after director Stanley Kubrick couldn't find an actor to replicate Ermey's drill instructor manner. Afterward, Kubrick claimed that Ermey wrote more than half of his lines. Take the cannoli. Paulie Gatto, Johnny Martino, is told to be removed for betraying Vito Corleone. After leading Paulie outside the city with a goon, Peter Clemenza, Richard Castellano, shoots Paulie in the back of the head as Clemenza takes a shot. The sentence, "leave the gun," that Clemenza urges the henchman to say when he returns to the car was part of the script. Still, Castellano added the line, "take the cannoli," which director Francis Ford Coppola appreciated and decided to include in the movie. Hannibal Lecter's hissing sound. The Silence of the Lambs has Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter for just 25 of its 160 minutes on screen. Still, Hopkins' portrayal became legendary, launching the character to international renown and winning Hopkins the Academy Award for Best Actor. Lecter is the star of every scene he appears in, but none more so than the one in which he delivers his iconic phrase, "I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti." After saying it, Lecter stops and hisses horribly. The additional sound effects had not been practiced or included in the script. Hopkins invented it. Jodie Foster's character, FBI agent Clarice Starling, is shown in the cut while she still seems shocked and unable to speak. Foster was unsure how to respond, and the sequence worked too well to remove it. He stole my line. Good Will Hunting turned Matt Damon and Ben Affleck into movie stars thanks to their outstanding screenplay and acting. However, Robin Williams' unforgettable line adds a last, heartfelt touch to the film's conclusion. In the film's opening scene, Will Hunting, played by Damon, uses the line from a handwritten note to inform Dr. Shaun McGuire, Williams, that he's gone to California to mend his relationship with Skylar. Dr. Shaun McGuire, Williams, tells how he met his wife, missing Game 6 of the 1975 World Series, and instead stayed in a bar to drink with the woman who would be his wife. As the voiceover repeats the statement, Williams was only supposed to stand in his doorway, but instead he grinned and said, "Son of a bitch stole my line." Williams' improvised line was kept in the final version. People call me Forrest Gump. Tom Hanks was supposed to say, "My name is Forrest Gump," but he mimicked Bubba's introduction and added, "People call me Forrest Gump." Director Rob Zemeckis loved how the line fit so well with the character, and he couldn't bring himself to cut it out. In the beloved classic Forrest Gump, the titular character enlists in the Army, where he meets his good friend Benjamin Buford Blue McKelty Williamson. Like tears in rain. In the film's climax, Harrison Ford's character, Rick Deckard, battles the replicant Roy Batty, Rutger Hauer, for his life. However, Batty chooses to save Deckard as his replicant life nears zero. The night before filming, Hauer changed his lines without informing director Ridley Scott, despite the original script calling for a lengthy monologue. The remark, "all these moments will be lost in time like tears in the rain," that Hauer adds to his portrayal of the scene perfectly punctuates it and humanizes the replicants. These days, it ranks among the best lines in the annals of science fiction movies. The entire version sounds like this. "I've seen things people wouldn't believe. Attack vessels ablaze off Orion's shoulder. In the darkness, I observed sea beams glimmering close to Tannhauser Gate. Like tears in the rain, all these moments will pass away with time. It's time to pass away." Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world? Jim Carrey was hilarious on the sketch comedy program In Living Color, if you were familiar with him before his big screen debuts. In Dumb and Dumber, Carrey masterfully employed his witty, spontaneous humor. The scene where Carrey and Jeff Daniels picks up the hitman hitchhiker is arguably the most well-known. The filmmaker claimed that every element of the scene, including Lloyd's well-known most annoying sound in the world, and the pair's Mockingbird performance, was improvised. And I'm all out of bubblegum. If you haven't seen John Carpenter's horror action picture, They Live, you could get away with it. Despite being a box office and critical bust when it first came out, the movie has gained a cult following. Actor and professional wrestler Rowdy Roddy Piper famously said something that may have contributed to that position. The iconic line, "I've come here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum," is said by Nada, played by Piper, as he enters a bank to kill some of the aliens hiding among humans. Piper later said the Carpenter told her to say whatever he felt like, adding in an interview, "Yeah, I couldn't tell you what it means. The line's been parodied countless times since." You know, morons. Do yourself a favor and watch as many Gene Wilder movies as you can on your streaming service if you haven't seen many of them. The actor was an excellent improvisation, and this scene from Blazing Saddles demonstrated his inventiveness. Jim, the Waco Kid, Wilder, comforts Sheriff Bart, Cleavon Little, with a little humor when he finds out that the villagers treat him just as racist, even though he's now a member of law enforcement. You must keep in mind these are ordinary farmers. These are native inhabitants, the ubiquitous clay of the modern West. Little literally broke out in laughter when Wilder added, you know, morons, into the script. Tiny is even glancing at the crew, possibly worrying if his chuckle destroyed the shot. It completed the setting. The horror. Since Marlon Brando is renowned for improvising nearly every line in Apocalypse Now, it's difficult to single out a line he ad-libbed. The first indication that something was wrong was when Brando arrived on the set heavier than the script required. Francis Ford Coppola, the director, concealed Brando's body with close-ups and baggy black attire. In the middle of filming, Coppola and Brando started working on a fresh script on the spot. According to Coppola, Brando wrote about half the movie's closing lines, which include his well-known, protracted soliloquy on the horrors of war. Okay, who brought the dog? Even though Rick Moranis left acting in the late 1990s to take care of his family, he was a highly esteemed improviser, and fans still loved many of his performances. The iconic Ghostbusters movie from 1984 ends with Louis Tully, Moranis, throwing a party for several of his clients. Ivan Reitman, the filmmaker, claims that Moranis improvised the entire sequence. Rick just made it all up as he was doing it, Reitman disclosed. I'm king of the world! It's difficult to believe that one of the most well-known lines in a movie, like Titanic, was entirely improvised. However, here we are. The script never called for the well-known moment in which Leonardo DiCaprio proclaims himself the world's king. Instead, DiCaprio said the now-famous statement when he boarded the boat before the shot. James Cameron was so taken with the line that he asked it to be inserted into the script to give the romantic scene a little careless excitement. Here's looking at you, kid. The most well-known quote from Casablanca is still uttered today and has become ingrained in popular culture. Yet it never would have if the actors had followed the original screenplay. This was a line overheard behind the scenes, not even improvised. During the on-set break, Humphrey Bogart told Ingrid Bergman the famous line while teaching her how to play poker. Because of its original wordplay, it was included in the script, much like the well-known line from Titanic. I'm singing in the rain. The graphic, extreme violence in Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange is well known, as are the other bizarre science fiction sequences rife with chaotic, dystopian situations. This movie, more than any other, made a beloved musical number so dark and menacing. Yet, dare I say it, the iconic sequence was not even in the original script. It was actor Malcolm McDowell who, amid the home invasion sequence, chose to sing at random. The ad-libbed acting was something Kubrick admired and encouraged them to preserve in the shoot. Mein Führer, I Can Walk. One of those corny movies that doubled as a spectacular, relevant parody of military life, and an anti-war movie is Dr. Strangelove. Peter Sellers, who portrayed Dr. Strangelove, the insane scientist, was the true star of the production. To be honest, there were several noteworthy ad-lib lines in this film. The Nazi doctor's final statement, which has become the movie's most famous phrase, was spontaneously created. It was a significant selling point for Peter Sellers and became a pillar of the movie. And he invented the mobile disco. Though Shaun of the Dead has several hilarious lines that will make you laugh till you cry, this subtly witty one hit the mark. Without input from the writing team, Nick Frost wrote every description of local pub patrons. Their descriptions might have differed if the patrons had selected a different actor. Luckily, Frost could improvise on the go and had a great sense of humor. I'm a zit, get it? Although this statement may come across as a bit crude and childish, this is precisely what made John Belushi's persona so endearing. Although it wasn't intended, this introduction to the Animal House persona was unconventional. Belushi used it to humanize his character further for the audience. It was a huge success and helped bring the film to the public's awareness. And what did that produce? The Cuckoo Clock. Without a doubt, Orson Welles' rendition of Third Man will live forever. The screenplay was written by Graham Greene, one of the best screenwriters in history. Welles was a fearless actor who gave a storyline that everyone else thought was predetermined by his unique spin. This brief speech was entirely improvised and was included in the film. I am hearing this, and I want to hear this. Given that it was based on a book, The Devil Wears Prada truly gave the impression that it would follow the book. That could be why it's among the list's most unexpected inclusions. Emily Blunt said the sarcastic statement after a reasonably heated phone call. Like many improvised situations, this phrase was prompted by something Blunt saw offset. After hearing a mother tell her child this, she decided it worked for the script. Picture a girl who took a nosedive from the ugly tree. There was a lot of guy talk in Saving Private Ryan, so this comment might appear like a cheap jest based on the classic schoolyard story about falling off the ugly tree. Was it shoddy writing, or was there any genuine banter thrown in for relatability's sake? A hint, neither. In this particular scenario, Matt Damon fabricated the entire story on the spot. It wasn't entered by hand. He was being frighteningly, realistically himself. Why male models? Nobody will ever forget the chaos Zoolander introduced to the world of fashion. The title character, played by Ben Stiller, was well known for his naivete, generosity, and blue steel appearance. Ben Stiller mispronounced his phrase in the scene where Zoolander discovers the diabolical scheme to utilize male models for political attacks. Actor David Duchovny chose to remain in character as Stiller repeated the line instead of calling a cut. Are you serious? That was just a moment ago, and it was effective. Game over, man. Game over. Many gamers, like Stewie from Family Guy, have spoken this phrase numerous times. It's also occasionally mentioned in video games. Though it's one of the most recognizable quotes in science fiction, this memorable line from Aliens wasn't actually in the script. Bill Paxton improvised the line to give the action a bit more drama. I loved it, and James Cameron kept it on the reel. Kelly Clarkson. People often say unusual things while in agony, but the 40-year-old virgin elevated Strange to a new level during the well-known waxing scene. The waxing scene went so viral because it was a tad more realistic than Steve Carell may have intended. There was no false hair or wax used in the scene. Both the grief you witnessed and what you saw were real. He happened to yell Kelly Clarkson's name while getting waxed on camera. I didn't know you could read. The intended portrayal of Draco Malfoy in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets was that of a cruel little bully. The jabs and humor were already incorporated into the script because of J.K. Rowling. One small barb wasn't supposed to be in the film. When Malfoy revealed to Harry, who had taken a potion to make him resemble Goyle, that he was shocked he could read, it was genuinely an impromptu jab that actor Tom Felton made up. They kept it in since it was effective. I've been impaled. While ad-lib lines are typically found in live-action films, animated films may occasionally have spontaneous lines. Ad-libs must be exceptionally good to be included in animated films because of the pressure they put on animators. An actual improvised sentence from Frozen was included in the final cut. Josh Gad wrote the sentence that appears to be Olaf saying he's been impaled. I'll have what she's having. The spectacular sequence in When Harry Met Sally, where everyone faked orgasms, will never go away. It's become a significant joke in pop culture, with almost every sitcom referring to it. It was a novel situation at the time, bringing sexuality into the open. That was a brilliant line above that only a great comedian could have penned, wouldn't you think? Not quite. Billy Crystal offered this sultry joke, and it was instantly accepted after they tested it out. Know how I know you're gay? There were several raucous scenes in Knocked Up, some of which were not shown in theaters. In this scene, two characters inquired of one another as to what first made them suspect the other was gay. The scene consisted of people jabbing, zinging, and barbing each other. The two actors in this scenario had a great time improvising all the jokes you heard. I need a vacation. Since the future was once more in jeopardy, Terminator 2 was an incredibly hectic film. Several phrases in this beloved high-drama science fiction work evoke fond memories and encourage people to support the good characters. A significant portion of this film was meticulously staged and expertly choreographed. However, this was not an intended line. Arnold Schwarzenegger seemed to effortlessly deliver it, and it made everyone laugh so much that it was incorporated into the script. It's such a fine line between stupid and clever. It was quite the journey to follow band members' lives in the 80s hair metal scene in This Is Spinal Tap. The three main actors were adept at incorporating realistic ad-libs into the written material and used their improvisation quite freely. Both writers and directors were astonished by how liberal they became. At the film's end, all three leads received writing credits because of how much improvisation they did throughout the shoot. And I am Iron Man. Marvel Studios' 10-year film series, which brought cherished superheroes to the big screen, changed the norms of cinematic storytelling. Iron Man, a surprising box office success in 2008, marked the beginning of it all. Even though the character had been mediocre in comic books for decades, Robert Downey Jr.'s iconic portrayal of the character propelled the Marvel Cinematic Universe through more than 20 films until Avengers Endgame. It made sense that he would be given one of the most memorable scenes in the show, yet that rarely happened. Thanos restates his statement from Avengers Infinity War, "I am inevitable," near the end of Endgame. Nevertheless, "and I am Iron Man" wasn't in the original Endgame draft. Instead, Iron Man uses cunning to mislead the Mad Titan at the same time. Where did it originate then? Downey Jr. had no line in the original scenario, he merely gave a finger snap. The scenario didn't feel complete to the directors. As they discussed ideas, someone remarked, "What if he claims to be Iron Man?" a reference to the first Iron Man movie. To get it into the film, they called Downey Jr. right away to reshoot it. I don't want to go. Our list includes more representations of the Marvel Cinematic Universe than just Tony Stark's valiant last words in Endgame. In the previous Avengers movie, Avengers Infinity War in 2018, Tom Holland's character, Peter Parker / Spider-Man, says a heartbreaking "I don't want to go" right before he's completely obliterated from the universe. Holland clarified in a 2019 interview that he didn't initially intend to speak the phrase aloud. One thing I do when trying to weep is repeat a phrase. In that scene, it was "I don't want to go," so I figured I would say it, which helped. It plays pretty well in the movie. What an incredible Cinderella story! Perhaps the most well-known scene in Caddyshack is Bill Murray's ad-libbed Cinderella story monologue. All it said in the script is, Carl is practicing his golf swing outside the clubhouse, cutting the tops off flowers with a grass whip. Director Harold Ramis said. Speaking about the speech, Murray has also said, "I was good back in those days. When they switched on the camera, I could take action. I was very absorbed in what I was discussing. For me, improvising on golf was a breeze. It was enjoyable as well. It wasn't hard to think of anything, and there was a sizable audience for entertainment." Everyone wants to be us. Meryl Streep's character, Miranda Priestley, was initially supposed to say, "Everyone wants to be me." Still, she changed it to "Everyone wants to be us" to support the concept that Andy, played by Anne Hathaway, was starting to become like Miranda in the movie The Devil Wears Prada. All right, all right, all right. The famous line, all right, all right, all right, uttered by Matthew McConaughey in Dazed and Confused, was derived from Jim Morrison's onstage banter during a Doors performance. The thought struck him in between shots, the actor claimed. So just before we're going to go, I'm like, what is Wooderson about? He's interested in 4 things. I say getting high, rock and roll, picking up girls, and you. I say, in my car, I'm as high as a kite, I'm listening to rock and roll. Action. And there's the chick. Okay, okay, okay. 3 of the 4. Molly, you're in danger, girl. When filming the famous supernatural romance, Ghost, Whoopi Goldberg changed the plot to better suit her character. For instance, she changed a simpler sentence to a more Whoopian one that said, Molly, you in danger, girl. I love lamp. One of Anchorman, the Legend of Ron Burgundy's most frequently quoted lines, is an ad-lib. The movie is undoubtedly the most quotable one of the century. Director Adam McKay was like, we should have more lines for you, but we don't have any on the page. He said, just say something, which is how the lines, I ate a big red candle and I love lamp came to be, according to Steve Carell. After stating I love lamp after a scene, Will Ferrell saw that I was staring at the lamp and remarked, you're just saying things you're looking at. Yippee-ki-yay, bleep. Before filming the actor Bruce Willis's famous Die Hard line and catchphrase, writer of motion pictures Stephen E., I wrote yippee-ki-yay a-hole, but Bruce, on his final take, ad-libbed the mother effer, much to the amusement of the crew. D'Souza told The Hollywood Reporter. The studio hesitantly left it in for the first screen testing, and the response led to its permanent inclusion. I'm totally bugging myself. This remark, delivered by the timeless Paul Rudd in the 1995 film Clueless, wasn't scripted. Instead, it was a spontaneous homage to Rudd's co-star Donald Faison. When you see us laughing at the end, we're laughing for real because nobody expected him to say that, Faison clarified years later. And how he said it. Rudd continued, I think there were moments when I would say, I'm bugging, not bugging, I'm bugging myself. And then we kept trying to do different versions of it. After that, for a little period, none of us could stop laughing. Not you, I don't even know you. Actress Heather Matarazzo claimed in an interview that producer Deborah Martin Chase suggested she improvise her famous Princess Diary statement. On that kind of set, Matarazzo recounted Deborah Martin Chase, who was one of the producers, was like, say something like, not you, I don't even know you. It was a collaborative effort to create the best movie, filled with laughs and love. Have fun storming the castle. In an interview, Billy Crystal claimed he wrote many lines he didn't know in advance for his role in the beloved film The Princess Bride. We made up a lot of things on the spot, like have fun storming the castle and don't go swimming for a good hour. Many extremely humorous things were discarded from the film. You can't watch Meg Ryan for 2 hours and not be thinking about another girl. Director Donald Petrie ad-libbed this well-known line from the 2003 film How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days because he wanted to develop chemistry between his stars. In a 2003 interview, he stated, I would go over to Kate and say, okay, in this next take, don't tell Matthew, but do this. There can be great chemistry, but if it happens at the water cooler when the cameras aren't rolling, you've got nothing. If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon